This evening we have a great show planned for you. We have an outstanding engineer who's with us this evening. She is a former high school student at the Howard Career Center, a graduate of Hampton University. Also, she has been quite involved with doing work in the D.C. area as well as Virginia. So this evening we're happy to have her with us. We have some outstanding students from the Red Clay School District. We also have students from the Vocational School District, as well as some students here from the Boys and Girls Club on Route 40. So we're just delighted to have you with us this evening. And please sit back and enjoy yourselves because we have a great program planned for you. Michael and Shaana will be working very close with me as we always do. This is one happy team and we're just going to spend some time sharing with you and our viewing audience some outstanding questions and some dialogues between our students and our engineer here tonight with us, Ms. Angela Mason. So again, we're very happy to have you with us. Please stay tuned and get ready for a great program. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome, Michael.
Hey, it's good to be here, Shaana.
It sure is.
Doc, thank you for letting us come and join you.
My pleasure. My
Good to
pleasure.
see you again, Doc.
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just saw that they showed a shot of our students over there in Studio B.
Yeah,
So we'll be hearing from them a little bit later. But before we get to them, we did want to introduce Angela Mason. And as Doc said, you're an engineer.
Yes.
And you work for NASA. That's a big deal.
Yeah. To God be the glory.
Yes, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Mason.
Thank you for having me.
We're so glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about, like Doc said, you're from Wilmington, you went to Howard Career Center. Give us a little bit of information about yourself.
Okay. Well, you know, it's really interesting because actually I got interested in math and science from Bancroft, which Mr. Pritchett actually was the principal. I won a math contest with Miss Davis, who was a teacher, and that kind of, and I believe I was in the 5th grade, and that kind of interests me in math and science, and from there, I just really excelled in it, and ended up leading me into engineering. You
know, one thing that really struck a chord with me in a great way was in reading your information, the Q&A session that you had, and some people asked, what would you suggest for young people to do? And you mentioned for them, if they're interested in getting into your field, take as many math and science classes, but then you also encourage them, I believe, to participate in contests, as you mentioned,
and fairs,
right there, you know, which would further heighten their interest.
Yes, definitely. If the students are over here to my right, and you know, if you are interested in engineering, being a scientist, being an astronaut, or being a doctor, I really highly recommend that you get involved in science fairs, math contests, because you know you'll start being able to compete with other students there, and also it'll interest you. And
that piece, I want to say Miss Mason, but may I call you Angela?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, that piece, Angela, about your story when you talked about Bancroft. Oh, you struck another chord with me because I too attended Bancroft. And you know, it was a system there, and I think you'll agree, of encouragement and reinforcement in a positive way. Just like you said, math contests, etc. I was an art student there. They entered me in art contests, and I saw that happen in other areas down there. So
and now you're continuing in that field.
Yeah, exactly. Saturday art classes from the time I entered there till the time I graduated.
Wow.
Every Saturday. But so she's telling you the truth.
Yeah. So since I had an interest in math and computers was the big thing, you know, in the 70s, I guess, and so I decided to go to Howard to major in data processing. So I majored there for, I guess, the 4 years. The second half was computer science or data processing at the time, and during the day we did our college prep courses.
Right.
And so we started there, and then after I graduated from Hampton, I landed a job with NASA, and I've been there for 22 years.
Well, don't gloss over that. So you landed a job with NASA after graduating.
Wow.
What else did you do at the university? I was reading also that you were very focused academically, but you were also involved in other things. So tell me, number one, what you were involved in, and then tell us how you balanced that out.
Okay. Well, I went to there was this organization called the National Technical Association, and it was minorities in engineering, math, science, and the whole goal was to, of course, get more students and more children interested in, science, math, and technology. But it was a professional chapter and a student chapter, and they had a student symposium for college students from all over at the Chamberlain Hotel, which is an Army base in Hampton. Okay. And I attended that. One of my mentors, his name is Dr. Woodrow Whitlow. He was he was a NASA engineer. Now he's an associate administrator all the way at the top of NASA. But he encouraged me to go to that symposium. And I was so excited about what they were doing that I came back to the campus and became a student president of the National Technical Association. And because I met a lot of the engineers, the minority engineers that worked at NASA that attended NTA, I had them come to our our group, and they share all their fun things they were doing at NASA, and and that's really, I guess, how, as far as balance and everything, it was hard because courses, it wasn't an easy field. It's definitely not an easy field, especially. Actually, my undergrad degree is actually in mathematics with like a double in computer science, and I have over 30 hours in engineering, so I have a really broad technical math degree that landed me into engineering. And then later, which Mr. Pritchett didn't mention, I did receive my master's. I got my master's in engineering management from George Washington University.
So tell us about some of the challenges that you faced academically at Hampton when you came across a course that was difficult. How did you get through it? What resources did you use? Not just at that university, but that our students can apply when they go away. Well,
one thing is, especially some of the engineering classes, it could take sometimes like 30, it could take almost an hour or 30 minutes just to do one problem. So, so you could be up really, really late studying. If you get tired, I recommend just go to sleep because you can overdo it and studying, and then when you take the test the next day, you're just, you just are really no good. Yeah. What was the other question?
The resources that you used.
One thing that I did that really helped me is I did a lot of my homework at the tutor lab, and that way, if I got stuck, I can ask somebody, because if I was in my dorm room studying and got stuck with a math problem or physics problem, whatever I was doing, then of course what you're going to do, you're going to close the book out and go to bed. But by me doing my homework at the tutor lab, then that really worked well for me.
Quick question, if I may, is with the development of the internet, do you think that will somehow be a little more helpful to those who may not make it to those group settings for study? You know what I mean? Some people are very shy when they first get to college.
Well, I definitely think the internet is a great tool because you can find out any information. You can just Google anything if you're stuck on something or you don't know what a certain terminology means. You can just Google it and learn about it. So definitely, the internet is a tool, but I recommend that you study with teams. You don't have to be an island on your own. I noticed that when I got to work at NASA, and some of my fellow colleagues, they always studied together. That was their thing. Is especially the non-minorities. They study as teams. So when you get to college, be sure to not try to do it all by yourself. Get some help from your team members, especially, of course, the ones that are doing well. The ones that are making the A's. You want to stick with them, and hopefully, and most of the time, they're very patient to help you.
That's good.
So what was the course? What was the progression after college? You applied to NASA, or they approached you?
Actually, they approached me. It was really interesting. When I went to graduate, because I actually graduated, I finished in the summer of my year, so I had to wait until the next year to graduate. So in that time period, I actually took a job here at a bank. You know, Delaware is known for the banks. And then when I went to graduate, I went to a career fair. And at the career fair, a NASA contractor actually hired me on a spot called Wiley Laboratories, and they were, you know, like one of their big contractors at the time, and they supported all the wind tunnel tests, and I was a supervisor for storing all the data for several different wind tunnels, I think over 14 wind tunnels. And when I talk about wind tunnels, basically we did a lot of aerodynamics tests, like flight tests, in a wind tunnel setting. And it's really interesting because I did some testing on the Boeing 777, and now I fly on the Boeing 777. I'm like, wow, you know, I had a little hand in this. So some of you students, you know, you're going to have a hand in a lot of the technology. Right now I'm responsible for some future satellite missions that won't launch until some 2020. So I'm sure some of you are going to be involved in building some of those satellites, and you're going to be here talking to the audience one day. So, yeah.